Thank you, Torfinur, and good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be part of this seminar for the first time, actually. Enhancing the knowledge of the EEA agreement is, of course, an essential priority for me and also for Liechtenstein here in the Brussels neighborhood. I find it very encouraging that actually close to 200 people are following this seminar to know more and to learn more about our agreement. As it was mentioned, Liechtenstein has the honor and pleasure, I have to say, of chairing the Standing Committee during the first half of 2022, an honor that repeats itself, it's rotating, so we have that every 1.5 years, only being 3 parties. Also has the benefit that the EEA EFTA trio is always constituted of the same 3 countries, which is also a difference between the EU and the EEA if you look at that. So I'll use the opportunity to say a few words about the Standing Committee, the Joint Committee, the EEA Council before focusing on our priorities for this 6 months. Let me start with the Standing Committee. As you have heard, it brings together the ambassadors of the EEA EFTA States. We meet about 8 times per year. And the purpose is mainly of the forum, it serves an exchange platform, and we prepare the meetings with the EU side in the Joint Committee, which usually take place the day after. Liechtenstein, Iceland and Norway are like-minded countries with many overlapping values and interests. So in almost all cases, you can say it's actually a very nice and pleasant meeting among friends, if you so want. Now, the EEA Joint Committee is then where we meet with the EU side to formally decide on the incorporation of new legal acts into the agreement. You have seen it's a couple of hundred of them every year. These meetings usually take place, as I mentioned, after the Standing Committee, and they are rather formal but effective and an important channel for us to also touch base, share our views and raise concerns. As you have seen, the EEA agreement is being updated continuously, around 8 times a year with 50 to 100 acts forming part of 40 plus decision in the Joint Committee every time. And it's exactly this dynamic nature of the agreement with its institutional setup that is one of the reasons why it functions actually so well. This makes the agreement flexible and, together with its broad scope, allows us to adapt to new challenges and opportunities more easily. And let me give you an example here. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when the world was basically standing on its head, we could collaborate, find solutions, and both adapt and adjust legislation and guidelines together with our EEA partners in a smooth and effective way. And by adopting this series of EEA or COVID-19 related acts in the Joint Committee, where meetings have continued to take place during the pandemic, although virtually. We have, for instance, been able to secure the procurement and distribution of vaccines and as little disruption to the free movement of goods and people as possible. Now let me go to the highest level, as it was mentioned, political level, which is the EEA Council. That one, as Hege already said, takes place twice a year. And that's where the foreign ministers from our 3 EEA EFTA states meet with the EU Council Presidency, European External Action Service and the European Commission to review the functioning of the agreement and provide political direction to the EEA cooperation. These meetings are an important area for our ministers to discuss practical and political issues concerning the implementation of the agreement, like the example I mentioned before, the effects of COVID-19, for example, as well as topics of high political importance and high on the agenda. We have discussed new industrial policy, strategic autonomy, Europe's digital future, climate change, and so on, just to name a few. These regular exchanges also show that the EEA EFTA states and the EU share many of the same values. Now, coming back to the agreement, the EEA agreement with its broad scope, ranging from the 4 freedoms and to participation in EU programs, you have heard a lot of it already. With that broad scope, the EEA agreement is certainly the most successful and far-reaching cooperation the EU has entered into with non-EU states. And this is why we, the EEA EFTA states, consider ourselves second countries, if you so want, which is an important distinction in the comparison of the often binary perception and division of the world here in Brussels into EU member states and third countries. So we think there's something in between, which is the second countries. And it's with this in mind that we have made reaching out and providing information, training and insight into the workings of the EEA one of our main priorities. After all, it is a success story with thousands of EU acts incorporated into the EEA agreement. I think 14,000 was the number over the years and applied in our 3 countries, thereby integrating Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway into the internal market. I think it's an achievement we can all be proud of. And it's exactly for that purpose, to continue this successful path of cooperation and participation, that the EEA and its unique setup and specificities, like the 2-pillar structure or full participation rights only falling short of voting, should be widely known. This would ensure that the EEA is taken into account across all fields where it is of relevance. And I can assure you, these are many, and the links are not always as obvious as in the case of its core, the internal market. Being aware and conscious is key here, and this is what we want to achieve together with the various players involved to create something like an EEA reflex or an EEA instinct, if you so want. Now, a second priority for us is what we call decision-shaping activities, and Marit has already elaborated on those. This means scrutinizing EU policy initiatives and legal act at an early stage, presenting EEA EFTA comments in order to shape legislative processes on the EU side. We recently submitted 2 EEA EFTA comments on the Digital Markets Act and Digital Services Act, as well as a comment on the new anti-money laundering package. These are important policy areas for us, and we have a lot of relevant expertise to contribute. Of course, such specific comments come on top of closely following EU proposals like the European Green Deal, including Fit for 55 package, Europe's Digital Decade, European Health Union, and the EU Strategic Compass for Security and Defence. Now, other priorities of our chairmanship ensure that the EFTA states' participation in EU programs is based on the rights and obligations specified in the EEA agreement, to work towards launching a future financial contribution of the EFTA states to social economic cohesion in the EEA, which I believe FMO will say a bit more about that area later today. And last but not least, and you already have heard of it, to ensure timely incorporation of relevant legal acts into the EEA agreement, which is an important part and very crucial to preserve the homogeneity of our internal market and thus essential for our businesses and citizens. Now, as the EEA files were recently transferred from the European External Action Service to the European Commission, we also here do what we can to help facilitate a smooth transition. And on this note, I would actually like to take the opportunity to thank the European External Action Service for the good cooperation during the last decade. We have worked together diligently to ensure the well-function of the agreement, and we are certain that this common spirit will also guide the work with our new counterpart on the EU side, the Commission Secretary General, who is represented here by Niklas von Lingen, who just sits here, and who will give his or the EU's perspective as soon as I finish, which is now. Thank you.